Moving on to the mixed messages in the document yesterday in the minutes, because while they were talking about disinflationary forces, they were still talking about inflation, and the bulk of participants effectively saw inflation moving to the Fed's 2% target over the medium term. And let's just put this in context. When they were discussing inflation, this was before the average hourly earnings cross that's really caused the market to sell off and yields to spike, and also before confirmation in the CPI. So already there was an indication that perhaps the Fed was sounding a little bit more hawkish before confirmation in the data. How much of that do we need to take into consideration, given the timing has been so important for the market?
I would say first, the wage numbers of January showed the bonus effect, the seasonal effect. I wouldn't pay. If you look at the mean earnings and the median earnings, actually the rise in median earnings has not been that high. But more importantly, I think that
the market reacted to it.
The market did. The market is too. At the same time, it's too geared towards ultra-cyclicals and very exposed to inflationary traits, while at the same time very concerned about it actually happening. So it's almost a funny way of creating a portfolio. You are extremely exposed to cyclicals, and at the same time you're worried about inflationary pressures. So, but the point that I'm trying to make is, I think that inflation expectations in consensus are overblown, are too high, even considering the wage numbers of January. And I think that what the Fed mentioned yesterday was actually very correct, is that disinflationary pressures are much stronger trends than those small commodity-driven inflationary pressures that we have seen in the short term. Again, I go back to technology, I go back to the aging of the population, and I go back to the very, very high levels of debt and very low productivity. You cannot have a very high rise in inflation in developed markets with such atrocious numbers of productivity growth.